Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. And as always, in December tradition, these next few Media Wiz videos will be in partnership with Red Ribbon Reviewers, an organization to help spread awareness for HIV and AIDS research, as well as Doctors Without Borders. That's another one to try and get medical attention and medical care to those who need it all around the world. So, as always, we're just going to be talking about a bunch of different Christmas and or holiday related media, and so to start this off, since last year I talked about a pseudo-sequel video game to The Nightmare Before Christmas, we're going to be talking about a prequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas in the form of a manga. Now, The Nightmare Before Christmas actually has an interesting history with written media and especially manga. There's a lot of them, and like I said last time with the Oogie's Revenge review that I did last year, I actually prefer follow-ups or prequels or whatever to Nightmare Before Christmas in this format because I'm one of those people, I just don't want another Nightmare Before Christmas movie. The original Nightmare Before Christmas is a virtually perfect movie. I mean, even if people find it overrated, it's a good movie on its own. It doesn't need a follow-up. And I know we're currently in the day and age where everything needs a follow-up, everything needs a remake, everything needs a legacy sequel. So the fact that Tim Burton, of all people, is like, oh no, we're not doing a follow-up to Nightmare Before Christmas. No way, no chance. And this is coming from somebody who didn't hate Beetlejuice. It's like, there does not need to be a follow-up to Nightmare Before Christmas. At least in the form of a movie. I mean, with stuff like video games or comics or manga, in this case, there's a little bit more wiggle room because it's like, okay, it's its own separate thing. It feels like if you like it, you can connect it and say that it's canon. And if you don't like it, you can just promptly ignore it. And there's been a couple of these. There was a book all about Sally called The Pumpkin Queen, which that's the only one I still haven't collected yet, but I have a bunch of these. There's one, it's an official tie-in manga that's based on the movie, and then there's this one, which is supposed to be a prequel. This is Battle for Pumpkin King, and it's supposed to be a prequel story showcasing how Oogie and Jack became friends and how they eventually became rivals. Because when the manga starts, in the first chapter, it showcases that they were best friends. They would get into friendly competitions with each other. They would, try to foot race each other so you can go up the spiral hill first and who can make it back down. And ultimately, what happens is there's a competition to see who will become the next Pumpkin King in Halloween Town. And that's what drove a wedge between them. Because the original Pumpkin King before Jack was this pumpkin-headed fellow named Edgar. And he's a shady character. He's this elder who still wants control over Halloween Town, so he decides to use Oogie to potentially still run Halloween while Oogie is technically the Pumpkin King. So interestingly, there's actually a video game that was supposed to be a prequel to this. It was on the Game Boy Advance. I briefly mentioned it in the Oogie's Revenge review, but yeah, there was a Game Boy Advance game, and it was supposed to be a prequel showing how Oogie wanted to take over Halloween and turn it into a holiday called Bug Day. Needless to say, I actually prefer this prequel story a lot more because, I found it generally interesting. It's like, okay, showing how Jack and Oogie were once friends. That's an interesting idea. And then what drove the wedge between them? Obviously, it was power. And Oogie desperately wanted to be the Pumpkin King. And, Oogie Boogie, being who he would eventually go on to be, is a natural-born cheater. And he would do whatever he can to try and slip up Jack and throw away their friendship, all in the sake of becoming the next Pumpkin King. That's a good idea for a story. I really liked what they did with that. Along with the artwork, that does look pretty good, even if it does take a little bit of getting used to seeing these characters younger. Oogie Boogie generally looks the same. What's really funny is at the end of the manga, there's some concept art in there, and it is really funny just seeing like, oh, this is supposed to be the younger version of these characters. Seeing them draw a young Oogie Boogie with a backpack is just like, okay. And they draw Jack wearing I guess a schoolboy boy version of his outfit. I don't even know. It's like, instead of having a suit, he has a vest. And in the concept art, they at one point tried having him wear a tie, but then they just went with the typical bat bow tie that he usually wears. Also, apparently there was a young version of Sally at this point. Okay. And they, I thought this was kind of funny that you have Dr. Finkelstein as their science teacher. Kind of makes sense. And the little details they try to add in the artwork to try and make characters look younger, like they have the mayor of Halloween Town have hair. Yeah. Whenever they tried to make the characters look like teenagers or younger versions of themselves, I was just kind of like, okay, that's a choice. It's not a bad choice, but it's a choice. I'll go with it. As for the competition itself, there's 3 different challenges they have to do. You have to carry pumpkins from the pumpkin patch to town square. And then after that, you have to build a tower of bones. And then lastly, you have to take 2 giant pumpkins, and each of the contestants have to carve them, and whoever has the better jack-o'-lantern is the winner. And like I said earlier, Oogie just basically cheats, and this is all encouraged by Edgar, who is trying to use Oogie as a catalyst so that he can still rule Halloween behind the scenes, as it were. But eventually Edgar just gets sick of Oogie's crap, and even after Edgar lets Oogie use his lair, by the end of the thing, you know that Oogie's going to take the lair away from him, and that becomes his, like, underground casino that we see Oogie living in the movie. When it comes to carrying the pumpkins, since Oogie is just a giant sentient burlap sack, he just stuffs all the pumpkins inside of himself and runs, while Jack tries to carry, like, at least 4 or 5 pumpkins at a time. But one of the rules is you're not allowed to drop the pumpkins, because then they won't be counted. And Jack does drop 1 or 2 the first time, but eventually he starts to get into a better flow. And the thing is, Oogie keeps damaging the pumpkins, so that's why Jack is winning this portion of the contest. After that challenge, Edgar takes Oogie to his lair, and he basically encourages him to bulk up on bugs so that he can make himself bigger. So I guess that was how Oogie got all of the bugs and snakes inside of him. I mean, I guess it's implied that he had a lot of them to begin with, but this is where Oogie just started, getting bigger and bigger and collecting more and more bugs. It's one of those things where I get why they did it for the sake of the story, but I never really thought that Oogie Boogie had any major motivation. He was just kind of naturally evil and sadistic, and he got pleasure out of torturing Santa Claus and later Sally. So I do appreciate the fact that they explain where Lock, Shock, and Barrel came from, kind of. Like, when it gets to the second competition where they have to build a tower of bones, whoever has the tallest tower wins. Edgar hooks Oogie up with 3 people who can help him, because that's the thing. You can have 3 people help you with building the tower. And so Edgar says, hey, go to our town, our resident town trick-or-treaters, and that's where Oogie gets associated with Lock, Shock, and Barrel, who are just babies at this point, but apparently they're helpful enough to him because they do make a large pile of bones, but it's not a stacked up tower. It doesn't have like a strong foundation. It's just a big pile of bones. And it is a bigger pile than Jack's. There's more bones in it compared to Jack's pile of bones, but it wasn't stacked properly like a tower. But ultimately, since they had more bones, Oogie technically wins the competition. All the while, he basically just had Lock, Shock, and Barrel do all of it for him. And while that was going on, he was trying to smack talk Jack, and Jack didn't appreciate that. And while there was some concern from Jack in the previous challenge, he's definitely starting to get sick of Oogie constantly trying to just screw him over and just constantly talk down to him. I really did like that aspect a lot. It did feel in character for Jack that he did want to keep his friendship with Oogie, but Oogie just said, I don't care. I'm just going to screw him over any chance I get. It felt exactly like the characters would in the movie if this actually was a proper prequel story. And then finally, when you get to the carving of the jack-o'-lantern, this is where Sally comes in and gives Jack a pep talk and helps motivate him and builds him up, because Oogie is still continuously trying to smack talk him. Instead of working on his own jack-o'-lantern, he just has Lock, Shock, and Barrel do it for him. And ultimately, Jack ends up winning because he has the better jack-o'-lantern, and Oogie, of course, is a very poor sport about it, and he doesn't take it well. He doesn't want Jack's friendship anymore, and he basically just leaves town, and he takes Edgar's underground lair away from him. And it was at that point I was like, wait, so is Edgar not really a bad guy anymore? Because the last few pages they have a big town celebration for the new Pumpkin King, and they take the pumpkins and turn them into giant pumpkin pies. Yeah. And Edgar, he cordially congratulates Jack for winning, and he says that he respects the fact that the town has a new Pumpkin King, and he says that he can finally rest in peace. So he goes to lie down in the graveyard, and I guess we can only assume that Edgar died after that. But the entire time I felt like they were building up Edgar as a villain, and I know Oogie's supposed to be the main villain of Nightmare Before Christmas, but that just felt kind of odd. It's like, so Edgar's not a bad guy anymore. He just is like, okay, yeah, he was clearly a lost cause. He lost fair and square, so I guess I'm not going to run Halloween Town anymore. I guess he counted his losses at that point. And then it ends with him going to lie down in the cemetery, and then you see Oogie bulking up even more on bugs and snakes, and we see like his silhouettes, and he's turned into the evil Oogie Boogie we all know and love from the original movie. So overall, I mean, this was a fine enough prequel. I feel the same way about this that I did with the story in Oogie's Revenge. It's like it's a fine connection to the original, but I'm glad that this stuff is done as spin-off media, like in the form of video games or comics or manga, instead of actually trying to make a full-length movie. The story itself is fine. I wouldn't say it's great, but I did enjoy it a fair amount. I thought that it was a fun little play on, the idea of what if Jack and Oogie were friends from the beginning, and that's why they eventually became such bitter rivals. The artwork is pretty good, the grammar is good, there weren't any spelling errors or anything like that. I did like the inclusion of some of the concept art at the end. I thought some of that was cute. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not as memorable as the original movie, that kind of goes without saying, but it's fine for what it is. It's a cute enough story, so I'd recommend looking into it if you can find it. So that does it for this video for MediaWiz. Next time we're going to be talking about a Christmas album, and we're going to be going back to the world of Pokemon. This was requested by a friend of mine. It's a kill two birds with one stone. We're talking about something Pokemon related again, and we're talking about another Christmas album. So yeah, look forward to that next week. But until then, I'm the MediaWiz, because one art form wasn't enough.